It is 8:40 Newstalk Sauga 960 Raw. Mike Richards along with David Bastl. And this is the scary time of year where, for the most part, guys like myself are just watching a lot of movies, a lot of slasher movies, a lot of, because it's a genre I happen to like. I watch zombies all year long, and I think we all know I'm a zombie expert. I think we all realize when the apocalypse comes, you're coming to this guy. I have all the answers. I know how to survive. I'm the only one looking forward to that time. When the zombie apocalypse hits, I'll be going, finally, it's Richard's time now. Yeah. So this is where you come for that information. But if you want literary information, you want a go-to, this is where the ideashop.ca, Idea Shop Canada, and Chris Houston come into play because he has the books. And we say good morning to our good friend Chris from the Idea Shop. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, Mike. Good morning, David.
Good morning.
These are some stellar books. These are, and they run the gambit too from the Poultrygeist, which I thought was pretty awesome.
It's outstanding. The kids love it, by the way. Chris.
Yeah, that is.
I sorry to jump in and over you, Mike, but Poultrygeist is a book that I opened up last week when I got it, Chris, and my oldest one was like, "Oh, Halloween book," and I'm like, we read it probably within. What were we doing? I'm trying to remember. It might have been like within 10 minutes of the book arriving on my doorstep from Canada Post. So home run there. However, I should add this. There were some questions from my 5-year-old wondering where the chicken went. I'm not going to spoil the story. I know, and you can see, you know exactly what I'm talking about, and it's like
these are the questions. These are, as I said, with the book, the Rock from the Sky, also published by Candlewick Press, publishes. Yes. I love a conversation after a picture book, and Mike would be the first person to tell you when you're waiting for the zombie apocalypse. There's some significant downtime. There's time when you're sitting. Are the zombies coming today? We're not sure. The one thing, zombies are on no man's schedule. They are just going to come when they feel like coming. So you need to have some books. So finding good Halloween books is a test of even the world's finest librarian. Because for your kids, David, you want scary and spooky, yes. But not too scary and not too spooky. So
bingo.
We start with Poultrygeist, by New York Times bestselling author Eric Giron and illustrated by Pete Oswald. Pete Oswald did those great books, The Bad Seed and The Good Egg. Terrific illustrated picture book. This is a great fun book for kids, pretty much ages 5 and up. It's why did the chicken cross the road? Well, I'm not going to spoil the ending. The chicken doesn't make it. The chicken does not succeed in crossing the road, and we go.
And that threw up the red lights over here.
Yeah, exactly. Wait a second now, Dad. What are you reading me? So the illustrations are great. It makes it fun. It's kind of hilarious. It ends with another kind of cliffhanger. Maybe there's a sequel at the end. So a great book, great fun to read. And I love the special finishes on the book. It's shiny. This is where a real physical book is great. So Candlewick Press again knocked it out of the park with this one.
They did.
The next people in the household you've got to work with, though, are your teenagers, cynical and hardcore teenagers. Well, what could be better than a book written by a teenager themselves, Frankenstein?
Oh,
Frankenstein.
Wow. Okay.
People don't know this or really remember this, but when Mary Shelley wrote this book, she was 18 years old.
See, I didn't realize that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that at all.
Yeah, you guys have both been teenagers. You know what sort of dark thoughts were rolling around in your head at that age. Imagine getting them down on paper. So Mary Shelley was on a vacation with her boyfriend and this other guy called Lord Byron. He was a big deal poet, and they were sitting around waiting for the zombie apocalypse. I think a lot of sitting around. The weather was bad, and so they started drinking, and which is what you do. And they decided they'd have a contest, and the contest was to see who could write the scariest story. So these 3 people spent about 3 months, and Mary Shelley won the contest. She wrote Frankenstein. So now Frankenstein, we all have a vision of Frankenstein in our heads and all that, but this is a very different, the original story is not necessarily the one from the film. It's dark, there's obsession, there's madness, it's really, really intense stuff. And the story is now in the public domain. Mike, if you had a printing press in your basement, you could run off copies of this. So publishers need to find a way to make it special. So this edition, Simon & Schuster Canada sent me this edition, forward by Stephen King. Okay, now we're talking. Illustrations by a guy named Bernie Wrightson, incredible artist from the 70s. He did Batman, he did Swamp Thing. He's really into the spooky stuff. Well, Stephen King says this in his intro. A lot of people started to read Frankenstein, and honestly, they never finished it. It's too dark, it's too disturbing. But Bernie Wrightson's illustrations, which are just magnificent, they add something to the story. So Stephen King says, hey, if you bought this book, there's a chance you might not finish it, but these illustrations are fantastic. So, if you've got someone at home who grew up on the Diary of a Wimpy Kid type books that have illustrations and stories, this is a great next step. Suitable for adults too, but I got to tell you, if you want to dial up the melodrama and terror, this book was absolutely terrifying. I was shocked at what, the one in the movie seems like a cartoon to me now.
Sure.
Well,
exactly.
And there are different versions of of Frankenstein as the movie and series and different. I mean, the one with Robert De Niro was kind of weird. You know what I mean? After everything that's gone through, and De Niro's the Frankenstein and the lightning bolts, and then he's kind of like, you're good, you. I'm like, okay, it's kind of tough to buy into the De Niro thing now, but that's a remarkable story about how Mary Shelley. I'd never heard that. I didn't realize that the process of that age. And when you think about it, why would that mind come up with that idea at that time during her time? And you think, there's a lot of anguish. I mean, at that age group, and maybe it was there's a heartlessness to it, and you start to probably really dissect it. Maybe it's why it would be a female who wrote that. Like, when you think about it, those kinds of sensitivities that actually are they're dark, but they're very they're painful. It's a painful transition to think that was something that was thought of. Maybe it does come, which is why I guess what's the vampire series that the girls just loved with James? Twilight.
Yeah.
Twilight. I mean, that was written for basically teenage girls, or those probably females who feel that sort of pain, which is different than the vampires that guys imagine, because there's no love to it. It's just a lot of biting, a lot of nice clothes, a lot of cool, sort of Lost Boys kind of feel to it, right? I mean, Lost Boys, I should have been one of the Lost Boys. I really would have enjoyed being one of those, along with Kiefer and the motorcycles. Oh yeah, I'm there, right there.
Well, while we're on, this is a great segue on to talk about movies and great stories from when we were younger. If anyone is a fan of 80s horror and slasher films, this author Stephen Graham Jones, he, again, my friends at Simon & Schuster said, you've got to check this out. We know you're interested in Frankenstein, but we're not letting you out of the building until you get a copy of this. This is a brand new book. He's a Native American horror writer. He's not even 50 years old. He's written almost 40 books. Wow. He is very prolific. And My Heart is a Chainsaw is a love letter to all those great horror and slasher films of the 80s and 90s. And it has to do with this miserable teenage girl. Okay, so we're making a connection here with Frankenstein. Yeah. It's quite elegant. 17-year-old teenage girl. She loves horror films, and she lives in a tiny, tiny Idaho town. And the only thing this tiny Idaho town has going for it is there was a mass killing at a camp, a summer camp. And you know what, Mike? A clue is, when your summer camp is called Camp Blood, don't go. I'm just telling you.
No kidding.
Yeah. I don't know what the parents back, how it was in the 60s and 70s. Yeah, have a good time at camp. What's the camp called? Camp Blood. Enjoy yourself, son. So Camp Blood, but it's now, as we know, real estate is very expensive. So they're building a gated community where Camp Blood was, and the body count starts to pile up. Everyone's very upset about this, except our 17-year-old heroine, Jay Daniels, who has seen enough horror films. She's writing a master's thesis on horror films for school. So she's starting to figure out that she might be able to stop it. And so she starts to work with the community and use all the little hints from the horror films that she's seen to solve it. She doesn't, I'm not going to give away the ending, but I'm going to tell you the body count gets very, very high in this film. So
okay.
I say film, it's actually a book.
Well, no, but it feels like a film. It feels like a screenplay.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. We often wonder where these shows that end up on Netflix and movie theaters, where are these things coming from? By the time this radio show ends, Mike, someone is going to be signing this book to a contract.
That's not what I thought you were gonna. That's not what I thought you were gonna say. By the time the show is over, the body count has got higher, which might be true. Which very, very could be true.
The zombies are outside, Mike, and they want some of your books. So My Heart is the Chainsaw, brand new. If you can get on there today in Vancouver's Writers Fest at 8:30 today, has Stephen Graham Jones doing a virtual event. So it's 8:30 our time, perfectly timed. The gentleman is very interesting. He's got lots to say.
That's awesome.
He's pretty scary himself.
How would you see that? How would people access that virtual? How do they do that?
Vancouver's Writers Fest. Google it. They've got a site, and it's on every year. They're very smart, though. As you know, as I was said at the top of this, finding the right horror books are very challenging. But there's always a few, and the Vancouver's Writers Fest is obviously going, you know what? Let's use Halloween as our time and not say Flag Day or Arbor Day. Those aren't as successful.
No.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of this time, I sense that you're a lot like me, that you like Halloween, and Halloween's probably meant a lot to you ever since you were probably the size of your kids, right?
Absolutely. You know, it was funny because one of the things about kids is they get into stuff that you may have not quite examined as in depth as they do. So my kids are really into Halloween, and what's great is where I live, our neighbors know that the kids are really into Halloween. So the neighbors really go out of their way with the decorations because they know this is what the kids are going to be greeted with every morning. And it's actually getting a little too terrifying for me. Thank heavens it's a work from home world right now, because walking out the front door of my house, seriously, there's 9 skeletons outside my front door just staring at me. So your kids, David, Halloween is big for them?
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you fact. We have 20 pumpkins in our front yard. So yeah, 20.
That's a lot of pumpkins.
It's big for Dave, because we've had this discussion where I go, what's your favorite holiday? He go, Halloween. Over Christmas? Yep. So the birth of Christ superseded by the Wolfman, by zombies, by the skeleton.
That was Kelsey's. I said Halloween was in my top 2.
Top two. Now we're on top 2s.
That's true. I would believe it was Kelsey's. Something Kelsey. That's not a surprise at all.
So, you know, Mike,
I love it. Though. I do love it.
Christmas doesn't have nearly the number of heroes and anti-heroes that Halloween does. You got from the Great Pumpkin up to Mike Myers, you know, and I mean Mike Myers, you know, that Mike Myers, not
Mike Myers.
That, you know, so you've got that's the failing in the marketing of the holiday season at Christmas. They just need more characters, you know. Throw an abominable snowman and you got it.
What's the Krampus? What's the bad one? They came up with this.
Krampus.
Krampus. Yeah, Krampus was well, it figures it's German, so
yeah,
a little aggressive on at Christmas time to come up with that character, but they're good at it. They're really good at it. But the other thing about Halloween that because I have a sweet tooth, bring on the huge boxes of the candy and gum. There's one called Double Bubble makes something called Ghoul's gum, so it's got. Gum that looks like eyeballs and you know that kind of stuff, and that is off the shelf as soon as it comes out. That and the 50 or the 100 pack of all the chocolate bars, right? So it's like you come to my house, there's all this chocolate and all the candy and stuff like that, and chips, right? The little bag of chips.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people either are sweet or salt. Now, Dave, I think you're salt. Are you not over sweets?
Sweet or savory?
I'm okay with both. I'm okay with both.
Yeah.
But you can't go wrong with any of that. We did the same thing. We did the Costco run this weekend, loading up. I don't know what we're going to do for Halloween because we're not sure if we're going door to door, but I am going to put a table at the end of my driveway, and kids could kind of pick what they want.
Very trustworthy.
And
Very
David,
trustworthy.
if you do that,
I'll be nearby. I'll be nearby.
Make sure to do a pumpkin count. If you have 20 pumpkins when you start that excitement,
True.
make sure at the end
This
you
is
still
true.
have 20 or I don't want to cast dispersions on your neighborhood, but 20 pumpkins would not make it in my neighborhood. It would be going down. I'd have 3 by Monday.
Yeah, I'll be honest. It's why I bought a pellet gun. That's not a story for everyone. Hey, it's Halloween. You want it scary? You got it on the right show. Chris, awesome. Like, really, wow. I mean, those are 3 like triple star, 5 diamond. Those are just brilliant books. I mean, look, we always have a great time. The books are always amazing, very diverse. My Heart is a Chainsaw. Wow, that is a killer book. It is a killer book. But I love the background on the author, and just the story alone. I cannot see this. I mean, if you're Netflix, if you're Amazon, I'm going to get.
How aren't you jumping on that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Get this guy on the line. Chris, thank you so much. Always brilliant. Always love seeing you. One of our favorites. You take care, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
That is Chris from the ideashop.ca, Idea Shop Canada. If you want to get a hold of someone who knows what he's doing, there's so many things that the Idea Shop does. This is just one of them, but we always enjoy what he brings to the show because he's one of a kind.